All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Chris Hurley. I am one of the career advisors, part of the career and professional development team. Thank you all for joining us. The internship panel, the All About Internship student panel that we have for today. We have a great student panel with us and really excited to hear from them. But before we jump into that, we're just going to go over a few more things, just some quick housekeeping items. We do have closed captions on, so if you need any of the closed captions, please feel free to turn them on for yourself. If you have any questions throughout the panel, we will be doing an open Q&A at the end, but if you are like, I really want to ask this right now and it's really relevant, feel free to drop it in the chat. We can try to get to it there. Otherwise, hold it for the Q&A, and then we will open it up for more discussion. And with that, I just really appreciate you all being here, and we'll get started. So we have a couple of things that we want to go over today. First, we'll just start off with like some introductions of like the CPD team and also our amazing student panelists. We'll talk a little bit about like why to do an internship. And then we're also going to jump into like the academic credit for internship process, and then really kind of open it up for like panel discussion and Q&A so that you all have the opportunity to jump in. So really quickly, the CPD team, we have a great team of 4 here to support you all. CPD does a lot of different things throughout the term, including a number of different programming. And it looks like my 4th panelist is joining right now, so I'm just going to get them in the room. And so with that, we are a mighty team here to support you throughout your own professional journey. Amanda Webb is our director, Alicia Alex, our associate director, Roxanne Fenton, our office manager, and then of course myself, Chris, as the career advisor. And Juan, I saw you just joined in, so I'm going to try to find you. There you are. And I'm just going to spotlight your video or add a pin to your video, and so that we have you on the main screen. Thanks for coming in. And so we also have our student panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen just for a second so that we can have the student panelists introduce themselves. Their videos should be pinned there for you. So welcome, student panelists. Oh, looks like I lost my 4th panelist. That's okay. So let's start with you, Ty, since you were first on my list. If you want to just introduce yourself, your name, your major, and where you interned this past term.
Sure. My name's Ty. I'm a 2nd year in my 2-year graphic design program. And I interned this summer at a studio called Watson Design Group. It's a studio that focuses primarily on doing promotion for film and television. So yeah, I just worked out of their office in Mid-City by the LA County Museum of Art. Is there anything else?
No, I mean, that sounds great. Maybe just like one more being like the favorite thing you did at your internship.
Oh, okay. Man, I mean, just the experience itself was really cool. I've never worked like in an office at a studio before, so that was really interesting to see. And got to do some really fun work for some cool clients. Like we did some work for Uno, the card game. That was really fun. Some stuff for Mattel, FX. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. And Noah, let's jump over to you. Just again, your name, your major, where you interned, and maybe a quick like one favorite thing you did at your internship.
Okay. Hey there, I'm Noah Kuzno. I am in my 2nd year of a 3-year graphic design program. I interned this summer over at a nonprofit called Kunkui Design Initiative, which was they were sort of this urban design and even like furniture, city planning, urban planning organization, and they had me on board as the graphic design intern. So my favorite thing I did over there was essentially they brought me on to overhaul their current branding, their current design, and I was able to actually make a whole brand design style guidebook, present it to not only the team in Los Angeles, but the team that they had over in Kenya as well. So it was a really fantastic experience.
That's awesome. All right. And last but not least, Jonathan.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan Kafori. I'm about 7th term transportation design. I interned over the summer at GK Design, which is basically an international design house. They're known mostly for designing almost all of Yamaha's power sports stuff. I'd say probably my favorite part of the internship was the second to last project that I worked on. Everything I did was generally really quick little projects for the team. And the second to last one, which obviously I can't talk about, but I enjoyed it a lot. I think it was fun to contribute to that project and work with everyone else on the team to reach a conclusion on it. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, internship panel, for introducing yourself. We're going to jump back to the presentation, but we will be coming back to our student panelists to have more discussion. So I just wanted to introduce everybody. And what I'll say for our audience too, if you are in the audience and you're wondering, well, my major isn't represented on this panel, please don't worry about that. We're going to have a great discussion just about finding internships, experiences, and there's going to be so many great lessons to be learned regardless, even if you're even if your major is not represented. And it looks like my fourth panelist might have just joined back in. So gonna pin their video. We're gonna actually jump over to them so that they can introduce themselves. So I'm gonna add you as a pin there, hold on. And if you want to introduce yourself, just your name, your major, and where you interned, that'd be great. And then like one quick thing that you really enjoyed about your internship.
Can I start first?
Oh, yeah, you're up.
Sure. So I'm Horan Xu, and I'm actually 8 terms right now, interaction design, almost graduate. And I intern at Xtelligent, which is a company that not hosted, like we have a professor in grad transfer program that participates as well. So it's a very art center closed industry. And one most interesting things I have about this internship, it's like we can get in touch with real customers. Like you can, as a designer, you can introduce your programs, introduce your project to a real customer and getting the real feedbacks, which is amazing as a designer, because real feedback always helps you to progress your design a lot.
That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining today. I know we had some technical issues getting you onto the call, so appreciate you being here. So jumping back to the presentation really quickly, I do want to just briefly touch on the internship for registration process. So if you are interested in registering an internship you receive for credit, we do have the opportunity for that. I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat for everyone, so feel free to grab those links in the chat. But basically, the internship for credit academic credit process here is a fantastic opportunity. You can receive a total of 12 credits for an internships or the internships that you apply for in your degree audit. You can receive a maximum of 6 credits per term, so per internship. It could be 3 or 6. As we can see, if you are an undergraduate student, you do have some requirements. You have to have 70 units or credits minimum completed at the time that you're applying for credit for your internship, as well as a 2.5 GPA. For graduate students, it's a little bit different. Graduate students, it is going to be 30 credits, and sorry, it's not a 2.5, it's actually a 3.0, so I'll have to update that slide really quickly. There is a minimum of 10 weeks that the internship needs to fall within the dates of the term. So that means if you are registering an internship for credit, 10 weeks of that internship has to fall within the term that corresponds to your registration. So right now we're in the fall term, so students who are on internship right now have 10 weeks during that term. And there are some hour requirements. So it is 126 hours for 3 credits. And if you are working 252 hours or more, you can receive 6 credits. So 6 credits is the maximum, with 12 credits in total towards your degree. So that means you can do 2 6-credit internships, you can do 4 3-credit internships, or mix and match, do 1 6, do 2 3, things like that. But it is a total of 12 credits towards your degree, 6 credits per term. Specifically for our international students, if you are an international student studying on an F1 visa, you do need to check your eligibility for work authorization with the International Student Services Office and their international student advisors. We work really closely with their team, so that is really good. And there are a ton of resources kind of explaining this process a little bit more in depth online. I want to make sure that we get to our panel and jump into that as quickly as we can, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but please know that I manage the internship for credit process here at Art Center. So if you do get an internship and want to register for credit, just reach out to me and we'll happily get you connected. Okay, so gonna move on to our reasons of why to do an internship, and we're gonna talk with our panel shortly and kind of go through some things that they highlight and found really great and wonderful about their internships. But here are 4 great reasons that CPD thinks you should do an internship. So number 1, you get to gain real world experience and learn if you fit within a company's culture. And I'll even expand that to say an industry's culture. I was doing a class visit and I was talking about how I was working for a government contractor and how just like that as an intern, and like that internship experience was very different than like some other internships that I did as a student. So I get to identify like the differences in those cultures. So number 2, you really get to network and develop professional relationships and references. So you'll be working with professional designers and artists. So it's really great to build those connections while you're there and see how those connections might support your future endeavors as as a student and post-graduation. Number 3 is you get to enhance your resume, qualifications, and professional skills. So internships are fantastic resume builders. They help show employers and future employers that you've worked places, that you've developed these skills. And not only have you developed the skills, but you've developed them in a practical setting. So definitely encourage internships, and they are just a really great way to get connected and involved with industry and highlight those skills. And our last kind of reason why we here in CPD really recommend internships is they help you identify your strengths and talents. You start to think about and identify what are you really great at, what do you need support in, how can you fit within specific industries. So with that, we're going to jump over to our student panel. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can see our student panel a little bit better. Everyone on the student panel should be highlighted and pinned. So if they're not, please let me know. But I guess just to get started, and anyone on the panel, feel free to jump in. This is kind of more of a casual conversation. How did you find your internship?
I really liked mine. I think it was interesting in many ways because there were parts of it, like I think with anything that you do, you don't ever like love something fully. So it was interesting to see kind of what I think I'm willing to give up in terms of like what I want out of a job, in terms of like the kind of benefits versus negatives. I think that was really cool. But generally, I really liked the work culture. I think there were very little kind of like inner work politics, and it didn't really feel like anyone was fighting against each other, which is really cool.
That's awesome, Jonathan. And sorry, I'm going to reframe the question a little bit. Like, how did you go from not having an internship to having an internship? Like, how did you actually find that internship? Yeah, no, that's all good. I definitely understand how that question can be interpreted differently.
How did I find my internship? So I took a power sports class, and Alex Earl, the teacher of that class, is always amazing at setting up sponsorships for that. And we had, basically a Yamaha sponsored project. And then, as I said, GK is the company that actually does Yamaha's design work. So when I did that class, I eventually kind of like won the sponsor, and then interned it at GK afterwards.
That's awesome. So yeah, it was like through class, through faculty. Really good.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, I will also definitely recommend people right here like connect the art center, which is a kind of like art center resource. It's like linking jobs, but it's internal, and there are many good companies like Apple and Meta or list their jobs on there, so art center students can try to apply for those.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got through Art Center Connect, which is our internal job board, and I'll be sure to drop that link in the chat before we leave today. Thanks for the shout out though. I'm glad that it was successful. Ty, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Actually, I found mine through Art Center Connect, and yeah, I just kind of was looking at it every day. And there's a couple weeks where there was nothing I was that excited about, and then Watson popped up, and I just jumped on it right away. So definitely recommend like staying on top of it because new stuff comes in, and it's definitely a good, easy way to find opportunities.
That's awesome. Did either of you use job alerts with Art Center Connect, that like feature, or no?
Like where it emails you? when
Yeah,
there's
which
new-
sends you a notification.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I had that set up.
That's awesome. Yeah, and for folks in the audience, what a job alert is basically it changes your job search from an active search to a passive search. And you basically set a bunch of criteria, and then anytime a new job is posted that fits that criteria, it sends you a notification. Noah, I just want to give you the opportunity if you wanted to jump in or add anything of how you found your internship.
I think I should have used Art Center Connect. I actually didn't. I'm not really too sure why I didn't, quite honestly. I maybe because I was just more used to it, Indeed and LinkedIn and these sorts of sources. So I eventually did find one, but I think it was a lot harder of a search and not as like streamlined as Art Center Connect. So I do recommend using that overall.
Well, and I think that's a really great point, is that there are tons of like platforms out there, and you don't have to necessarily subscribe to one or the other, and you can actually use many of them, use them all, and that it doesn't have to be kind of a straight one-to-one process. So I guess kind of to follow up on that, when did you start your search process, and like how early did you start compared to when you started your internship?
For myself, at least, I started applying all the way back in like February. So it was a while ago, and I didn't actually hear about start hearing results until like April timeframe, and then eventually I started work around May. So it was definitely a long span, and I do recommend applying pretty early overall.
Yeah, and just for clarification, everyone on the call did an internship this summer, like over the summer term. So that just, again, shows you the timeline. Yeah, February to April was kind of application season for you. And anyone else like have a different kind of start?
Yeah, I started, I think, looking in February. I think I found mine in March. I remember it was a pretty good gap between like when I signed on with them and started. So I think it was like mid-March. But I was just going to say that one thing that was really helpful for me, and probably the main reason why I got the internship, was that I just sent a follow-up email like probably 2 days after sending my application. And the way they responded, it seemed like that's really what prompted them to like even take a look at my portfolio and everything. So yeah, I had been resistant about doing that sort of thing before, and my girlfriend actually really encouraged me, and it definitely paid off. So I recommend sending those for sure, because I think yeah, things can get lost pretty easily.
Nice. I guess just to kind of keep the conversation going, what were some reasons why you wanted to do it, like to do an internship?
I think I can take this one. Overall, I've always kind of wanted to actually work in the field, because as great as Art Center is, in terms of how they educate you in terms of a career field, there's nothing quite like working in the field, and I really wanted to learn and experience that. And it is a different experience, and these other reasons, like it does improve your resume, like do have something great under your belt, and you get this real world experience. And then also, if you're, I have to be transparent also, if like you may get paid as well. So that certainly doesn't hurt to get money over the summer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say why not? It's like there's so many advantages to it. I think one, obviously, it makes you more viable for actually getting a job after you graduate as well. Most of the time they are paid. If you're doing actual design work and not just doing coffee runs, like you should usually be getting paid for the intellectual property that you're giving them. And then it's cool to just meet a lot of interesting people, and then you can get accredited for it as well. So it helps you go through school. So yeah, there are just tons of advantages for it.
I would also add, second all that, add one more thing. Like, I got an open offer to return from my internship, and that's a really good reason to consider doing it.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Ty. Ronan, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, but I'm actually not recommending my way to get an internship because I start very late. I start, I think, like right after the final. I start just like trying to apply for the internship in next term. And I'm very fortunate, so I get one, but I'm not recommended.
Can you talk a little bit more about that process, and kind of why you don't recommend starting that late? Like, what would be? I mean, it sounds like it might have been a little stressful.
Yeah, it is, like especially for interviews. And also if you want to get a corporate job, usually you're gonna apply like I think 3 months or 4 months earlier. But if you want to get like startups, it should be fine if you're applying in months, and they will have several interviews and they will catch you up. So yeah, but I believe like most people come to our center, they're trying to get a corporate job. That's my assumption, but if you got other exception, you can say as well. But for the corporate job, definitely go earlier, as early as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point that you're bringing up, is that the timeline can be very different for these companies. And usually, yeah, like kind of the more structured, the larger the company, they might have like a really formal timeline that is, yeah, months in advance, to where you won't hear anything, or you might even get hired a couple months before the internship start date and things like that. So versus, yeah, a startup, which could happen very quickly, in a short process. So my next question is, I would love to hear, like, what are some things that you learned on your internship that you didn't learn in the classroom? And Hanan, I would love for you to start on this question, because you kind of talked a little bit about this, of like working with like real users and getting their feedback. So yeah, just like, what are some things that you learned at your internship that you haven't had a chance to learn in the classroom?
Yes, because I'm an interaction design, so we're doing UIs all the time. And also like during the internship, like it's a chance for like interaction designers to collaborate with engineers. So you can see your design being achieved by different ways. And there's a lot of questions engineers gonna bouncing back to designers. And in this time, like designers can revise different things and make it more fitable for the engineers. So those things are the things you cannot learn in the classroom. And also another thing is like I just mentioned, the real customers. So in school, like you can interview people, but they don't have the needs to like the must to buy a product. But while you enter in the company, usually like the customers, they're seeking for purchase this product. So their critique will be like more as a direct from their needs. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like the users, the customers, they have more almost buy-in of what, the results, and so like are kind of a little bit more involved in the design process. It's great. Anyone else on the panel? Something that you learned at your internship that you haven't learned like in the classroom?
I think I can go. For me, what was really interesting was, in our classes overall, like I'm a graphic student, but I'm assuming it's the same in every class, right? Where like, um, yeah, like when you present a project, your teacher talks to you about it and is obviously very experienced in this. But for at least my situation, when I was redoing the brain interface organization, it's not like the people, but like my boss at the time or the people I worked with were graphic designers. So it was a whole new experience of trying to like communicate with people who are familiar with graphic design, and we had to sometimes convince, we had to sometimes take feedback, and it's not like one piece of advice, but it's just like a very different situation from being on school where everyone loves the field that we're in. Everyone is really in depth and knowledgeable, compared to like the outside world where that's not always the case, so it was just very interesting overall.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it taught me quite a bit about just a field that I didn't know a ton about going into it. I think definitely power sports is quite a bit different than kind of traditional car design that we get taught through most of the transportation program. So I think it was kind of just interesting to get insights on what people in that field want in terms of customers and stuff like that. What they want is quite unfamiliar to me. So that was really helpful and useful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and getting exposure to like those different industries is really great and a great opportunity from an internship.
Yeah, I think also just kind of getting a feel for what it's like to interact professionally and in that environment is something that you can't quite really replicate in the classroom exactly. And I'm sure it's going to be different at every job and with different cultures. But yeah, I mean, like, I think for me, like at the studio I was at, it's like everyone is really nice, respectful, and positive, but everything's a lot more streamlined in terms of conversations compared to the classroom, So I think it was really helpful. And it also just kind of like demystifies the work world a little bit, it makes it seem a little less daunting or foreign or something when you're back in the classroom. And I think that's a really positive outcome as well.
That's wonderful. Yeah, especially if you haven't really worked before, it's kind of a good way to like introduce yourself to the work world. So we're back on campus, which is really exciting for us here in CPD, but the pandemic is still kind of going on. So I wanted to ask the panel, did COVID-19 impact your internship in any way? Did you have like remote work, hybrid work? Just if there was any type of impact, can you share about that experience?
I don't know how much it was COVID versus distance that affected my internship. I ended up getting it in Orange County, which is where they're based, but I live in Pasadena. So we kind of agreed that the best solution would be to work 3 days from home, 2 days at work, given the commute time. So yeah, I don't know how much that was based on the pandemic, and then generally at work we were very spaced out actually, and it's a pretty small team, so we didn't usually have to wear masks. But yeah, it was relatively normal, I think, at this point. But I don't know if that's an Orange County thing versus the rest of the world. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, Jonathan, what you're hitting on is like a lot of employers and companies have like had to learn how to work collaboratively from distance. And so there might be like remote opportunities or something like a hybrid opportunity like you described. So that's really good to know. Anyone else have any impacts from the pandemic? And it's okay if no, if you went in every day. I just wanted to.
Our company goes fully online because since the office is closed, office building is closed, so we have to go online, and our company just like it's fine, and I feel it's running smoothly.
Yeah, okay, so you were totally remote then.
Yeah.
And there are things and strategies, and I provide some like outreach to folks who are on remote internships on how to have a really successful remote internship, because it does change the dynamic a little bit. And so if you ever feel like you're stuck or like how to make the most out of that opportunity, don't hesitate to reach out to CPD. So for all of our panelists, what do you wish you knew before starting your internship? And you're like, oh, I wish there was like someone just told me this one thing.
I think overall, sort of like what Ty hit on, but like there's sort of this big fear of job or career, and it seems like this big monster, but it's really not. I think if you just like you get like just like school, you get into a rhythm, and there's an everyday sort of thing to it. So I think any advice, don't be nervous about it. don't think that you can't do it. I know that people have a lot of imposter syndrome, but like you can definitely do it. You know, it's something that yeah, it's a great experience that I think everyone should have. So go out there and just apply. You know, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I'd say that too. It kind of just the actual act of doing an internship really demystified, I think, an internship. Like, I think before I was a little bit afraid that maybe it'd be just a lot of work and very stressful and would maybe kind of just not be great for self-confidence, but I found that to be completely the opposite. I think the working requirements are a lot more kind of normal and comfortable than art center, and I think it was really actually pretty good for my mental health and stuff. Like it was just, yeah, nice time. So.
Yeah, one thing is that going into it, I thought I was going to be able to take a class at the same time as I was doing a full-time internship, and I quickly realized that that was not a great idea. So I would definitely encourage you, if you're the type of person like me who tries to take on everything, to be realistic about what you can handle in one term.
That's a really
So
great
I ended up having to drop the class so I could just focus on the internship, which ended up being a lot better.
Yeah, it sounds like that was a really good, like, and difficult decision for you, Ty. Like, probably, if you're an overachiever, it could be tough to like cut something out there.
Yeah.
Colin, did you want to jump in? That's something you wish you knew.
Also, like internship credit, it's a pass no pass class. I know that after I finish my internship.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pass or fail. And there are also, it's a great point that there are grading requirements. There are things that you have to do while you're on internship and if you register it for credit, things like tracking your hour logs, ensuring that your evaluations are complete. So these are all things that you're responsible for. And I hope I don't have to chase you down too much to get them done, because you will get lots of emails from me throughout the internship process. So working at an internship is a little bit different than working in a classroom. And I was wondering, what was it like working on a team of professional artists and designers? And like, how did you participate like on the teams that you were on and just like sharing your ideas? And what was it like kind of being a student in that space?
It's pretty cool. I think like, I don't know, personally, I found it was just cool to come into a place where, generally speaking, I think a lot of the people have been there for a while, or they've been kind of in power sports for a while. And it's cool to come in as someone who wasn't like particularly obsessed with power sports, and also who was young, and just to kind of come in with fresh ideas and stuff. And it's pretty rewarding, I guess, because a lot of people are telling you like, oh, this is really cool, we've never seen something like this before. And so I think that was really fun. But you also get to you get exposed to a vast amount of knowledge, which is really cool as well. So it's a nice balance between the two.
That's great. And that's some feedback that we received from employers too, that it's just so fantastic to have like kind of a fresh designer in the team and bringing a different perspective. So that is just a reminder for folks who are on internship or like going to an internship, like don't be afraid to kind of share your ideas and share like those talents that you have.
I think my experience was a bit different overall because I wasn't with other graphic designers. It was mostly like urban planners and everything like that. And they just needed a designer for their brand. So I didn't really work with a lot of other graphic designers, but they put me in an interesting position because it gave me a lot of authority, because I was really like the only designer on the team. So all of a sudden, I sort of had this expectation that like I'd be treated somewhat like a kid, or like go get coffee to a small extent, which is like the stereotype of internships. But I found myself in a kind of a serious position, and people were taking a lot of were giving me a lot of respect for the work I was doing. So that was a whole different experience I wasn't quite used to. It was a bit scary at first because it's like, oh my God, I'm like steering this train, but it's also like, but once you get over that, it's a really fantastic thing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a studio, so I was with a bunch of other designers, and I just found it so inspiring. Like everyone there was so talented at so many different things. I just tried to observe as much as I could what kind of, their techniques and workflow and everything. Yeah, I don't know. It like really definitely was left me feeling really motivated to like learn more and learn as much as I can in my last year of Art Center before I go back out. So that was really cool.
Wonderful. Horan, how about yourself? What was it like kind of working on like a team of professional designers and such?
Because I'm the only designers in the company, so we actually don't have a team, but
Mm.
we have another user researchers in the company as well. And I think mostly like if you're the only design team in the company, you have to be practical. You cannot just design something which hard to be engineer or something. Like everything is based on commercial size. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point that you get in an internship, is that there is like a kind of a realness to the work that you're doing, right? And it has to exist outside of kind of a theoretical space, which sometimes assignments can be a little bit more on the theoretical side, right? But what you're making is not. Kind of a follow-up question for both Noah and Hanan, since you were like the only designers, can you talk a little bit about like, yeah, the support you found at your internship to just make sure that it was a successful experience? And like, what did that support look like?
I mean, support from within the company, it was, I mean, when it came down to the technical parts of the design, it felt mostly that was a matter of myself and like between my boss. But overall, I was just getting a lot of complimentary feedback from people who were seeing little bits and pieces that were coming out, and eventually when we released the whole thing. But I didn't get like tons of support in a way, because I was very much by myself. That doesn't mean that people were mean to me. It doesn't mean that like people were ignoring me. It just like I had to have that confidence in myself that I was producing something good at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it sounds like this experience kind of helped reinforce that confidence.
Exactly, it was a great confidence builder.
Yeah.
And we have a design lead in the companies, so he providing all of us the critiques and consultancies and different other stuffs. And also our CEO, it's also the product manager. So it's been very sufficient support all of the designs. So yeah.
That's wonderful. So we have some questions that are coming in the chat, and so I want to get to them quickly. But before we do, I want to just jump over to my last question, which is, in quick 30 seconds to our panelists, what's a piece of advice you would like to share with the students on the call right now as they're looking for internships? One big piece of advice to leave folks with.
I really think mine, I know I said it already, was just to send a follow-up email. Like, don't assume that just because you applied, like they saw your materials and considered them already. Like, just don't be afraid to send the follow-ups, because these people are busy and they're not always getting to everything right away. So.
That's great.
I would give kind of two parts. First, sorry if I cut someone off, but two parts. Just apply early, and then just don't be afraid. You honestly have absolutely nothing to lose. If it doesn't cost you money to apply, just something outlandish, and you may get it. You may not. I don't know. So it's just like, don't think that you can't do it. Essentially.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'd second that. I think what I just said in the chat, like just apply to things. I think, yeah, as you said, there's no cost. It's not like applying to college. So just do it. And then also, yeah, go in with confidence. I think if you get an internship, like know that you did that and you should be proud of yourself for that, and that you should go into that first day like ready to contribute and be part of something. It's pretty cool. So.
I mean, my advice will be like, besides your resumes, we should also design our LinkedIn page as well, since most of the recruiters, like, they're gonna see our resume, but they're also gonna see our LinkedIn page and what's your past experience. Because for most of the resume, you can only write one letter size page. Because if you got two of them, maybe they don't have time to check it out. So in that case, if you have some extra experience, but it's not as important as the one you put on resume, you can put on LinkedIn, and the recruiter gonna saw that as well. Yeah, and also be sure like you're gonna put your LinkedIn URLs on your resume.
That's amazing. And that's just a good plug to engage with our office, CPD. So we are happy to review your resume. So I'm just going to jump back to sharing my screen, and then we'll get into your questions. So just to kind of wrap us up, and then we'll turn off the recording. That CPD is here to support you. So you are always welcome to reach out to CPD. There's some great resources that are available to you, specifically the CPD website, which I just dropped a link into the chat, as well as our Instagram has, we're constantly posting new content there to help you along. And then there is a final resource called Art Center Connect, which is how you would schedule an appointment with me. So if you are interested in working on these things one-on-one, we can always get you connected with an appointment. And I will drop that link in the chat too. But with that, I also wanted to say we are going to jump into your questions now. But before we go and do that, I just want to kind of say thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much, panelists. And just hang tight. We're going to shut off the recording and jump into your own questions right now.